Hey everyone, I want to welcome you to the Chuck Banks Experience. Today, what I'm doing is I'm actually doing a little bit of recording here in our studio, and all of this content eventually goes on like Spreaker. It goes on Spotify, all those sorts of things. So if you're interested in checking that out, be sure to do so. I'm going to be recording live my second segment here this afternoon. But be sure to share this stuff out. It's exciting to get the Chuck Banks Experience and everything kind of off the ground. Okay, so bear with me. I'm getting ready to fire up on my recording device. So shoot out a question, comments, anything like that, and I would be for certain, to utilize that within our broadcast. Just a minute. All right, part two, getting ready to fire it up. And we're back on the Chuck Banks Experience, kind of an affiliate of Dog Pound Radio, as well as a subsidiary of the Coaching Culture and Athletics Radio Broadcast Network. And we are extremely excited to bring you some engaging content. Be sure to check out our sponsor, Turn Two Workshop. That's Stan Schmidt. Today. And anyway, this is part two of our segment this afternoon, and we're talking about quiet firing. We're talking about in employment out there where they're quietly firing you. Have you ever had the experience, whether it's and this can be any type of employment, but have you ever had that experience where you just felt like that they wanted to get rid of you? For whatever stretch of the imagination. Now, I'm not stating that is my current scope, because it isn't, but I have went through this on a couple of occasions, whether it's from the coaching aspect or the teaching aspect. And this term quiet firing is something that can really demoralize the individual. So here's the definition of this: demoralizing an employee by means of passive aggression, micromanaging, retaliation, and or manipulation, so that they feel they have no choice but to walk away from their own role. If you hear the dingling in the background, that is Leo the Beagle, and also joining me is Loki the Beagle. So if you hear that, so we're going to start off by this, okay? Demoralizing an employee by the means of passive aggression. Now, yeah, again, whatever type of employment or experiences that you've ever had to deal with this, it's important to note that sometimes a place where you're working becomes so devastating, so dark, so dreary that you have to walk away. I had to make that decision. But passive aggression. Now, don't get me wrong. There are good parts for every type of employment. But when we get to that point where it's kind of at the end, it can drag on you. It can pull those strings down, and it can hurt you in many regards. Micromanaging. As a guy that not only spent some time in the industrial management realm. And I don't know whether I've ever shared this, but when I came back from the Air Force, I went back to school, ended up getting married and then divorced and blah, blah, blah. And then I met the love of my life, Stephanie, afterward. And then we had 2 children together as well and raised 3. Okay. It seems like a lifetime ago. But I started out, I started out working for Rubbermaid Incorporation in Centerville, Iowa. And I went up the ranks relatively quick, became an assistant supervisor. And within 4 years, I was asked to go to, another company or corporation, Survivor Technology, which is a window and doors manufacturer. So I go there and as a glass manufacturing supervisor, and within 6 months, I became a night production manager and blah, blah, blah. And I started doing really well, in that management aspect. Okay. Survivor, just kind of fast forward. Survivor Technologies windows and doors ended up shutting down. They wanted me to go to New Jersey. I was like, no way. I had an opportunity to go to Chicago and work for Silverline Windows and make a lot of money. Decided not to because I wanted to take care of, Chelsea. We weren't in control at that point. And anyway, so we're working along there. I decided to stay home. End up going to work for Pella Corporation. And I had this management experience. I for every employment opportunity I rose up through the ranks. In those certain situations, Pella Corporation kind of had that passive aggressive tone and things like that, especially when I started having some hypertension issues and things like that. And anyway, they kind of pushed me out to the point to where I blew up and quit. The only job I ever quit and walked out on was Pella Corporation. If you're not Dutch, you're not much. No, I'm just messing with you, Pella people. Okay. Anyway, so I decided to go back to school, and I'd always wanted to coach football. I'd always wanted to be a head coach. Coaching the sport that I love, whether it was baseball, football, whatever. Got involved in education. Got hired. Ray Miller, wonderful human being, ended up passing away a few years after I got that opportunity in Centerville. I had coached softball for many years. Thought I was going to be the head softball coach for the Redettes, and I wasn't. I was kind of left out of that for whatever stretch of the imagination. And just so you know, I'm not bitching about that. I'm merely stipulating that God has a plan for us all, always. Okay, so understand that. I'm not griping. I'm just kind of giving you some background. So I was at Centerville for 10 years. I was a football coach for, I think, 11 years, because I actually started a year prior to engaging in the classroom right away. Centerville looked to cut back to halftime, and I was going to lose money, and my wife ended up, losing her job because of the Branstad cuts, and that's another topic, altogether. So anyway, I decided to go to Central Lee. And it was a great move for all of us. Not only was I going to be an assistant football coach, the heir apparent for the head coaching position at Central Lee, I was able to work for a Hall of Fame coach, and I was able to be the activities director for Central Lee. And I go over there, and things are going remarkably well. Excuse me. I'm gonna get a drink. Well, what happened is that the leadership that stated that that I was the heir apparent left. We had a young man who was taking his second superintendency job that came in, and they ended up giving the head coaching job to Nick Garrett. Nick's a great guy. Okay, he was a good choice, but lo and behold, I was like, man. I was supposed to be the heir apparent. I was supposed to be the chosen one, that you see in Star Wars or whatever. And so I stayed on staff 2 years. The second year, I just, by the end of it, the struggle and all that sort of stuff, it really hit me and destroyed my love for the game, to be honest with you. So I took a step back and I took a year off. Then COVID hits. Nick resigns. I applied for the job again. And I get it. I get my first head coaching football position. I had to spend over 20 years, kind of rising up through the ranks. And anyway, God has a plan. God has a plan, and you have to understand that. But looking back, hindsight's always 2020. I was a guy that I could build a foundation, and I wanted to create something that's going to be successful. And my culture is very much similar to Coach Derek Doherty's culture here in Fort Madison. It was that modality. Okay. And I know it sounds cheesy, but I came up, from this, from a TV series, right? Clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose. All right. So, I wanted to create a culture that was going to create good young men and foster a full heart, where losing wasn't necessarily an intangible there. Well, they brought me in, open arms, Pretty much gave me everything that I needed to basically get this going, with the exception of maybe having some other coaches to be added to the mix and things like that. Spent 2 years there, winless 2 years, and it was miserable. We had some talent, but injuries, COVID, all that sort of stuff, it kind of took its toll. By the end of year two, I was second guessing whether or not I ever wanted to be a head coach again. But year three hit. We started out the year, we missed a field goal, and let me tell you, actually, we didn't kick a field goal. We didn't have a kicker at that point. We had a chance to win a ball game. It was about a 39-yard field goal attempt. We hadn't had a kicker that had kicked all year, and we got three of our kickers that kicked off got hurt at the beginning of that game. And I had a parent just start blatantly yell at me after that game. Again, it's crazy. It's crazy to think, and making comments like, "Well, you won't be around long," whatever. I kind of shook that off and went forward. Well, we ended up winning, 3 games that really mattered for that year, and we made the playoffs. Went up to Mount Vernon, and what was crazy is this. Again, back to our comment, quiet firing. In years past, when teams make playoffs, everyone's excited. Everyone, you get messages from your leadership. You're able to get T-shirts, that were taken care of in the athletic office, things like that. All of that stuff was taken away. This micromanaging, manipulation, man, it was crazy. And the passive aggression. Oh, you made the playoffs. Big deal. You were 4th and you were 3-5. Well, makes no difference. We made the playoffs, folks. And I told those kids at the end of the year, they can never, ever, ever take this away from you. And by the way, I don't mean to toot my own horn, but historically speaking, roughly 29% of my career, we've made the playoffs. Okay, whether it's as an assistant or as a head coach. Made it one time as a head coach. I don't count the COVID year where everybody got in. Okay, I don't count that. But got in as a head coach. Got in twice centrally. Got in once at Fort Madison and 3 times in Centerville. So a high percentage. So I've got a pretty good resume. Well, a couple weeks later, okay. The season kind of ended, and again, this passive aggression coming in saying, "Hey, do you want to coach next year?" Well, dude, I just made the playoffs. What do you, so that passive aggression hit. It just blew me away. But anyway, that took place. So anyway, like 3 weeks pass, and as I'm walking out the door for Thanksgiving break, I'm told that I'm not coming back. As the head coach, they had decided to make that choice, but also told me I couldn't tell my players. Passive aggression, micromanaging, retaliation, manipulation. It hit. So I immediately, I call one of my best friends and confidants on the planet, who's a remarkable young head coach, Derek Doherty, and I said, "Man, this happened." And I said, "But, keep it quiet or whatever." And you know what? He saved my life. Him and Fort Madison community saved my life. They got me a job and they got me out of there. Where this quiet firing, I was not going to stay at an organization where I'd given my heart and soul 75 to 80 hours per week, all the way summer, all the way through football season. And then I'd, knock it down to about 58 hours a week, right? Gave my heart and soul. And, at one point I was seen as this great, great aspect, great culture, leading good men, making good men that are making good decisions. I still get a little bit fired up because I love those kids that I left. So anyway, it was right before Christmas break, got called over, did all that stuff, and was asked to resign, which is fine. I understood I was 3-22. I was 3 and 22, and good communication would have went a long ways. Okay, good communication would have went a long ways, and I understood that. But man, I was deeply hurt. I was angry. Okay, so I decided, I told them, I says, if I'm not going to be your coach, I'm not good enough to teach in your organization. So I left. And again, God has a plan, right? I've said that over and over today. God has a plan. And I come over to Fort Madison, and I have just a remarkable experience. And seeing these young coaches, the just the sky's the limit for these guys. Coach Cullen on the defensive ranks, young guy, is a remarkable coach. And I tell you, seeing Coach Doherty lead all these coaches, Weichert, Lamb, I'm going to miss some, Doty, whatever. He's leading something bigger than himself. And this past year we had a rough year, but he's still at it to create good young men. And this kind of back, I got to go back and wrangle it in. Quiet firing. Let me read it again. Demoralizing an employee by means of passive aggression, micromanaging, retaliation, and or manipulation so that they feel they have no choice but to walk away from their role. And that's quiet firing, folks. And that's my experience with it. But I'll tell you what, man, I think I've told Lamb this a few times. I'll go through hell for him because he took me out of a situation that was nearly killing me. We'll be right back for part 3 here in just a minute. All right. So if you're watching over there in YouTube land, I appreciate you. I cannot see, I can't see, comments or anything like that. I think I have one viewer, which is amazing. So as I get ready for part 3 here, I'm just going to take a quick break, and we're going to fire away here. We'll be right back. So I got to download my Audacity. Okay. Okay, so I got to change it. Let's see, part 2. And again, if you want to check out the Chuck Banks Experience or Dog Pound Radio, as you're sitting back there and hear the entirety of this week's broadcast, be sure to check out Spreaker. That's Spreaker. Just type it in, download the app. It's free. Create an account, follow Dog Pound, and follow the Chuck Banks Experience, and you will not miss anything. Anyway, on YouTube, I'm only going to be doing a few segments. So that's it for today. Hope